Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our ECBC's members call tonight. I'm Sean Nygren, and I'm the Membership and Engagement Coordinator. And I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started with tonight's agenda. I will be keeping everyone on mute. That helps keep the background noise down to a minimum so that we can hear our speakers clearly. We will be having a welcoming with Charlene Gray, our ECBC board chair. And then tonight we have on the agenda Childcare BC, Building Childcare Together with Michelle Kirby. And that will be followed by information about the ECE bursary program by Krista Copeland, our ECBC bursary manager. So we have an action-packed evening. So we'll get started right away. And first off, I would like to welcome Charlene Gray to the call.
Thanks, Sean, and welcome everyone. And thank you to our special guests, Michelle and Krista. First of all, I'd just like to recognize that tonight I'm calling in from the traditional territories of the Comox and Pentlatch peoples, and know that throughout the province we are all honored to live, play, and work on many traditional lands. And so it's important for us to honor that. So I'll do that tonight. I want to welcome you all on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Early Child Educators of BC. We are a volunteer board made up of 10 early child educators from around the province, diverse areas. We work hard on your behalf, and this webinar is something that we're really excited to present. We're also really happy to present it to educators and others who are not members of the Early Child Educators of BC. Normally our members only calls are for members only, but tonight this is such important information. We want to share it broadly in hopes that when you learn this information and think about ECBC as an organization, you might think about joining, because there's so much going on, and it's the very best way for you to have your voice heard and to make sure that you are in the loop of what's going on and you're getting all the best information. So tonight we will have two speakers, as Sean mentioned. I'm hoping, Sean, that we will have a bit of time for question and answer. I'm just not sure of the timeline tonight, but I know there's lots of great information coming that will impact early child educators. So thank you again for joining us. And Michelle and Krista, thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to Michelle.
Great. Thanks so much, Charlene. I appreciate the introduction. Hello, everyone. I guess Sean's going to bring up my presentation. I've got some slides tonight. My name's Michelle Kirby, and I'm the Engagement and Partnerships Manager for Childcare BC and the Ministry of Children and Family Development. That's a very long title, but I basically am a engagement and partnerships person that runs around the province trying to encourage folks to build childcare. That's the Coles notes of my title. So I guess, Sean, are you going to bring up that presentation, or am I just not seeing it?
Can you not see it?
I can't see it.
How about
there we
now?
Go. Yes, I can.
Oh, fantastic.
Great. Okay, phew. Would have been a really interesting way to try and explain this without having some kind of visual for folks. So I'm going to begin by acknowledging that the land on which I present to you is the traditional territory of the Coast and Strait Salish people. Specifically, I'd like to recognize the Lekwungen-speaking people, known today as the Songhees and the Esquimalt nations, and that their historic connections to these lands continue to this day. So next slide, please, Sean. This is just a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about tonight, and we're going to begin with just giving you the context of what I'm about to tell you about, the general vision for government for childcare, what the Childcare BC plan is, what we're going to do to try and create and sustain new spaces for childcare. And I'm going to give you some successful project examples of other projects that have been funded through our Ministry of Children and Family Development capital programs. And then I will leave some time for questions and discussion. You could flip the next slide, please, Sean. Great. Thanks. So this is just the beginning here. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of Childcare BC's vision. As you may be aware, in Budget 2018 in February, the Minister of Finance, Carol James, announced that there would be a $1 billion investment over 3 years into childcare, which, as I'm sure you're well aware, is unprecedented and extremely exciting. So what that investment is meant to do is begin our 10-year plan to, this is $1 billion over the first 3 years, and with a contribution from the federal government of $153 million, also over 3 years. But it is the beginning of a 10-year plan to work towards affordable, quality childcare that is available to every family that wants or needs it. In short, universal childcare. So we know that if we're going to build this kind of a system, that we have to make sure that we do all 3 things at once. So we've got 3 pillars: affordability, accessibility, and quality. And that means that we need to build all 3 at the same time if we're going to do this successfully. We can't build spaces without ensuring that the quality is there, and we also need to reduce fees in order to make sure that families can access those spaces and the quality care. So quality, I think, is most important to you, and that means a few things: health and safety in a workforce that obviously we know there's a shortage of ECEs, and programming, ensuring that the early learning is combined with safe childcare. So I'll get into more of that in detail in the next couple of slides. So the next one, Sean, is affordability. So there's a $630 million investment over the next 3 years into affordability, and you guys are probably most aware of this because of the programs that have already rolled out. So we began in April with trying to rush out the door the Childcare Fee Reduction Initiative, which reduces fees up to $350 a month for licensed childcare providers to pass on to families. That was basically rolled out within a month and a half of the announcement, and so there were some challenges, obviously, and we appreciate your patience and support throughout that process. Approximately 50,000 childcare spaces are part of that program, and we've already delivered over $8 million to childcare providers, with savings passed on to parents. Then we, in August, worked on delivering the affordable childcare benefit. I guess that began September, and this fund is available to more families at higher annual pre-tax income of $111,000. So, as you're well aware, the current we've increased the number of families dramatically from about 20,000 families that it could access subsidy in the past, and this program is going to help up to 86,000 families by the end of the fiscal 2020-2021. So I think we're at about 58,000 families now that are accessing that fund, which is great, and seeing their fees reduced slightly or entirely. So we're doing our best to make sure that this money, the $630 million, gets out there as quickly as possible, and that families feel the relief as soon as possible. And I'm sure you're seeing that relief as well in the stress levels reduced in families. In addition, we're also rolling out the universal childcare prototype sites. We've been very busy the last couple of months in this department here, trying to make sure that we could deliver that program as quickly and efficiently as possible, so that we can begin learning about how to build universal childcare for BC. And as I'm sure you're all aware, every childcare center operates differently. There's a huge range of different ways to operate and funding models. We've learned that you charge, by the day, by the hour, by the month, by the week. there's a huge range of and diversity in how childcare is delivered. So, from family daycare all the way up to the large corporate centers. So, what we're doing with these 53 sites that we're working to operationalize right now, we're not quite there yet. We've just got just over 50 that have signed contracts and are most of them started November 1st, and the remainder will begin December 1st and operate up until March 31st, 2020. They will be offering the $200 or less childcare per month. So that's an incredible savings to those families, and again, the relief that we're hoping to provide to the rest of the province in the near future. But in the meantime, we're using these sites to learn, and we chose sites. There were over 300 applicants that applied to this program, and we had a really, really difficult process to select the sites to ensure that we were representing all the geography of BC. So there's sites way up in the north, there's sites, just about covering the entire province. And as you may have seen from the list that's published on our website. But we're trying to cover all of the geography as well as make sure that every model is represented. So there's everything from in-home family daycares, again, all the way up to the corporate model. And we're trying to just examine how we do this. So if we scale this up in 18 months to cover the whole province and offer this to everyone, how will that look, and how much staff will we need, and how long will it take to get things up and running? So it's been a really incredible learning process for all of us here. There's about 5 of us that are doing the majority of the work with the sites, and it's been interesting and some long hours, but it's very worth it. And hearing just how the positive response we've had from most of the providers, as well as the families that are attending those centers, it's been really quite a rewarding process. Then I'm going to move along, I guess, to the quality aspect. So there's $136 million invested over 3 years in quality. We are trying to make sure that, I think you're going to hear about some bursaries in the section after me, and I know that some of that funding is coming from us, and we are doing our best to increase the number of spaces available to ECEs at institutions across BC. I think they've increased it by 620 spaces. We are doing our best to ensure that the wages are increased. So we've got the wage enhancement program that's being rolled out, retroactive to September 1st, and will be paid out in January or February this year. And we're trying to increase the health authority capacity to license new spaces and facilities and conduct investigations and monitor compliance a little bit better. We realize that not everybody has adequate access to their health authority or their licensing officers. So we're working on that, as well as many other initiatives. And then the next pillar is accessibility, and that's where I'd like to focus tonight. There's $237 million invested over 3 years. So accessibility, as you're well aware, there are not enough spaces across BC, and particularly in the infant toddler area. So we've invested, initially there was a Childcare BC Maintenance Fund of $1.2 million that you may have accessed yourselves. That money has flown out the door, and I think we are reaching our capacity for this year's budget pretty quickly here. And but that's there to address emergencies, make necessary repairs, and replace equipment for operations. We also have a $25,000 fund now available. So if you had to relocate your center on an emergency basis, we will help to do that with the $25,000 moving fund. That's under the Childcare BC Maintenance Fund. There's also startup grants for those of you that want to go from being a licensed or become a licensed family or in-home multi-age childcare center. So we have, I think it's up to $4,500 to support folks to do that. And that's very well subscribed as well. And then there's the Childcare BC New Spaces Fund, and that's my baby, no pun intended. Anyway, so if you could flip to the next slide, please, Sean. But before I get to the New Spaces Fund, I'm going to mention another one. So this is where things get a little confusing. The federal government, that $153 million I mentioned at the beginning of the call, that the federal government gave to us to deliver for childcare programs, they had some stipulations, so we decided to administer that money through the Union of British Columbia Municipalities. So through local government, we are delivering this funding package. If you could flip to the next slide, there's two programs that are underneath the UBCM umbrella. The first one is a community childcare planning program. So this is for local governments to learn about how many spaces are needed, what kind of childcare is needed, where are the gaps in your area. And we offer up to $25,000 per local government, but we also encourage them to partner together. So, for example, in the Cowichan Regional District, which is here on the island, the municipality of North Cowichan is partnering with the city of Duncan and the district of Lake Cowichan, the town of Lake Cowichan, as well as the regional district and the town of Ladysmith. And so the five of them are going together and applying for this grant and this program. So the five of them will get $125,000 together, and they could hire a consultant to go out and determine where the gaps are, where it would be best located to build childcare, what kind of childcare they need, whether that's anywhere from infant, toddler up to the before and after school care. We just need to know what you need in your community and what's lacking. So that's what that's for. The application deadline is very soon. It's January 18th, 2019. So I'm doing my best to get this message out to communities all across BC and make sure that they're aware of that planning fund. The next fund is the Community Childcare Space Creation Program. There's $13 million available in this fund, and it's very similar to our New Spaces Fund in that it offers up to $1 million per application, so to create spaces on local government property. So if your local municipality or government would like to build childcare at a rec center, in a community hall, at the municipal hall, on any of their property, they would be eligible to receive up to $1 million to create those spaces. And it would be 100% funded by this program. So again, the application deadline for that is January 18th, 2019, which is fairly soon. But this is for children, for spaces from infant, toddler to preschool age, 3 to 5. So with a priority on infant, toddler. There's, like I said, it's not as big a fund, but it's certainly with that tight timeline, the January 18th, 2019 deadline, there might not be as many people applying for it, so your chances of receiving that money might be a little better. So I encourage you to speak to your local councillors or your mayor or your regional district directors, electoral area directors, and find out if they've heard about this and whether they will champion an application and go to their councils. I have a motion that I can offer you or give to them to use to bring to their councils that directs staff to get to work on these applications. So if they're new to council or they're new to local government, they might be intimidated by the process, but don't tell them not to worry. I'm here to support them and help them get that done. So you can encourage them to contact me if you want to go down that road. So that's the UBCM funding. Now there's this Childcare BC funding, which is through Ministry of Children and Family Development. This is our provincial program. It's called the New Spaces Fund, and you can find it on our website, Childcare BC website. The specifics are that, if you want to flip to the next slide, Sean, this fund is an unprecedented 100% provincial funding program. So normally, not normally, but in most programs, there's some kind of contribution that must come from other levels of government or from the applicant. But in this case, for local government, for school districts, for any kind of public institution, we have an unprecedented 100% provincial funding available. And for that same group, the school districts, First Nations, band or tribal councils, post-secondary institutions, local government, all of them, they can apply for up to $1 million per facility, as long as they are partnering with a not-for-profit or nonprofit childcare provider to deliver that service, or they could deliver it themselves. But the reasoning is that we want to invest public dollars into public assets and make sure that they are there for the long term. We're trying to build these spaces for the long term, and anyone that receives up to $1 million will have to make a 15-year commitment to operate that facility. So, like I said, we're building towards this bigger vision of offering universal childcare to British Columbians, and we need to do that in a way that's sustainable. So we need to make that investment into public facilities that will exist for the long term. The application process for this Childcare BC New Spaces Fund is open continuously, so we don't have a deadline like the other fund. It's sometimes nice to have a deadline. I get that. It's sometimes motivating to know, holy camoly, I've better get my ducks in a row because I must meet that deadline. But so this doesn't create quite the same urgency when it's open like this, but it also allows you time to prepare an application that will be successful. So you're not rushing to pull it together based on an arbitrary deadline. You can actually pull together a quality application that's really fulsome and has all the information that we ask for. And then some, throwing in more information about the quality of your programming in your center or your experience in creating childcare in the past really helps your application. So make sure that if you are applying for this funding, that you are being really, taking the time to write out all the details of the programs that you offer and making sure that you really share the best of your program and explain that well to us so that we can see that you're prepared to handle this project, and also that you are going to offer quality programming for children in your communities. So there's other packages available. I'll get into that in a little bit, but first I wanted to come up with some nice examples of other communities that have already received funding. So last year, the Blueberry Creek, which is just outside of Castlegar, if you're not aware. So Castlegar is a small community in the Kootenays, and Blueberry Creek is an even smaller bedroom community to Castlegar. They had an elementary school that was closed down in the early 2000s, and it was funded as a community school for a few years until that program ended. And so the school district was left with this asset, this empty school, and with a Strong Start program in it, 3 to 5 year old daycare and a preschool, and some out of school care as well, and some youth programs. And so the community loved this center and were very concerned when the school district talked about selling off the asset, selling off the school. So they rallied together and supported the center, and they created the Blueberry Creek Community School Society. And the school society bought the building for $1 from the school district. And they got support also from the city of Castlegar to do that. And as they were, they've got all these great programs running in there, and it was great, but as their funding, the community school funding stopped, and the society struggled to maintain the building and keep things running. So they were running a deficit for about 3 years, and they knew something had to change. So they hired a new executive director, and she championed the expansion of services to include an infant toddler space. So they would diversify, and they would also create economies of scale to offset the maintenance and operation of the building. She applied for grants, and despite several challenges, she successfully created 12 new infant toddler spaces in one of the old classrooms. They renovated it and created this with only $110,000 from us, from the provincial government. So adding those extra 12 spaces in infant toddler really increased the range of childcare that was offered, age groups that was offered at that facility, and suddenly the center started to make money because their families knew they could drop their infant toddler, their 3 to 5 year old, their youth for an out of school care program, the children attending school age children. So it was suddenly became this great little hub for childcare, and it really, really works. So not to mention it's just a really high quality program, and it seems to be thriving there. So she's even considering expanding. But this was a great investment for only $110,000 from us. They also got a $30,000 contribution from the Columbia Basin Trust. And if you're in the Columbia Basin, that sort of corner of the province on the neighboring Alberta that kind of goes off at an angle, the Kootenays and all the way up to Valemount, you are entitled to funding from the Columbia Basin Trust, and they also have some very generous grants. So I encourage you to investigate those as well if you're looking into this. The next example I have is the Port Alberni Friendship Center. They received $491,000 in a couple years ago, and have now been open for a year. This beautiful building you see before you. This is the U'uquasuk Childcare Center, Treasure Our Young Ones Childcare Center. It's right beside the Native Friendship Center in Port Alberni. And I had a chance to pop in there recently, and it's a beautiful center. There's 50 spaces for all the way from infant toddler up to school-aged children. They also have a language nest program, which is really successful. So the couple of elders come in and teach the Nech'tlas language to the children, and including some of the ECEs that are also doing Indigenous language programming through the North Island College. They support them by practicing the language as well, so it's really cool. The city of Port Alberni donated and rezoned the land they're on because this was just adjacent to their current building. And the Friendship Center is right next door, as I mentioned. And so this really worked well. The council supported them wholeheartedly by when we came to council and asked for some support to have that land. It was wholeheartedly supported by the council, and having the city of Port Alberni do the rezoning process. I'm sure you're aware that that's a challenging thing to do. Having the city do it for them was a huge load off. But this was an excellent example of cooperation between the Friendship Center and the municipality, and with support from the local college, the North Island College, and MCFD. And so we're thrilled to see this one working so well. The next example I have is from my own community of Oak Bay. I'm a recovering politician. I've been off for a couple of weeks now, so I'm quite pleased to say I've focused entirely on this wonderful job now. But my role with Oak Bay has really taught me a lot about local government. So that's why I'm here. But when I first started out about 7 years ago, I was involved in the application for the Oak Bay High School to include a neighborhood learning center. They were going to rebuild our very decrepit high school that was the greatest seismic risk in the province. It had been promised to be replaced since 1992, and they finally got around to dealing with it in 2012. So after all that time waiting for a new facility, they really came through and built us a beautiful new building, as you can see in that center photo there. But the brick area on the main floor on the right there is the childcare center. So what happened was we used to have a childcare center in an old change room in the middle of Carnarvon Park, and it kind of had a leaky roof and wasn't the greatest spot, but they made it as comfortable and safe and cozy as they could, but it really wasn't an ideal location or space for the children or the staff there. So after operating there about 25 years, they moved into this brand new space because we really lobbied as a community to make sure that our neighborhood learning center included childcare. And so if you know that you're going to have a neighborhood learning center added to any new schools or renovations to schools in your community, I encourage you to do the same. We organized a letter writing campaign and really motivated the minister to include childcare in our center. Anyway, so that's that $17 million addition to the high school, which goes all the way along that bottom floor of that side of the school. Is full of childcare. So the first bit where you can see there is the 3 to 5 daycare with 25 spaces. They've got an exemption for that 25th spot, and beyond that they have a whole bunch of multi-purpose rooms and a teen center. And in those rooms, there's out of school care for the 2 neighboring elementary schools and middle schools. And so there's 178 out-of-school care spaces. And this works well because it's all run by Oak Bay Recreation, so the recreation department of the district. And so the staff are well-paid CUPE members, and they stick around because they know they've got a great wage and excellent benefits there. And it's a high quality program, and it's definitely supported by the rec center, which you can't see in that photo. It's just across the field. There's a swimming pool and a skating rink and all kinds of other stuff that go on at the rec center nearby. So the kids are able to access all of those things through the rec center because our staff are connected to it. So it's really done a great thing for the rec center by bringing more families in, and it's also really made for quality programming at the center. So if anyone at your council or in your rec programs says that they can't expand into childcare, tell them to talk to Oak Bay, because that programming pays for the $90,000 lease on that space, the neighborhood learning center space, and helps us maintain our buildings to high standards. So it's a really good thing for the District of Oak Bay, as well as the high school, as well as the childcare. And then the next example I've got is to do with school districts. We have a really exciting announcement that's coming out here in Greater Victoria pretty quick here. The Premier, I'm sort of preempting the Premier's announcement here, so don't tell him. But this School District 61 in Greater Victoria has been working really hard on this application, and they've been successful now in receiving funding up to just almost $5 million in provincial funding for the next year to build 11 modulars. So this isn't the most accurate image, by the way. I'm showing you one of the initial drawings that they came up with, but it's something similar to this. It's got a kind of sloped roof and nice windows, and they're quite an attractive modular. They don't look like your regular portable. But they are fully functioning modular buildings with plumbing and everything, and they're building them at the using in-house labor. So the school district staff or QP staff are building these modulars on the district's facilities work site, and about a block from here, actually, from my office in Victoria, and they are shipping them out to 6 elementary school sites in the first year, and they hope to do 12 more elementary school sites for the remaining 400 spaces that they'll be building in the next 2 years. So they're going to have nonprofit childcare providers at each site. That's how they're eligible for up to $1 million per project, per facility, and that's really working well for them, and we're really excited about this project. We've also talked about maybe sharing these plans to other school districts, so that may be something we can work out with the other school districts in the province. But we all know that having childcare located on site, particularly before and after school care at schools, is really very convenient for families. And these sites are going to include everything from infant, toddler, all the way up, but from 3 to 5 preschool and out of school care. So there's quite a range being offered, but we're really excited about it. Another school district that's also doing great things is Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows. They've got 7 fully serviced portables are being built and delivered in to elementary schools. That they were hoping to have them this year, but unfortunately the cost of construction has really slowed things down for them, and so they're planning to deliver those next year, starting next August. They will be setting up these portables, fully serviced portables, on 7 different elementary school sites, and they've also have this beautiful building, the Susquehanna, which is their neighborhood learning center, and that building right in the middle of the image there, the sort of white part of the drawing is the childcare center. So it's this site is including it as their building, so that's great. We don't have to worry about modulars or portables, but where we can't do that, we'll have to settle for modulars until we can add on to schools or do what we can elsewhere. So that's really exciting. They've received over almost $3 million in provincial capital funding, and will be creating 308 spaces on school grounds. Then finally, I'm just going to go over what the eligibility and commitments are required for this New Spaces Fund. As I mentioned earlier, there's the public sector focus there at the top, trying to ensure that we make this public dollar investment into long-term commitments of up to 15 years on public land. And we're also ensuring that we're partnering with a nonprofit childcare provider to make sure that it's going into public, not for a private or profit funds. And so then the next level down, we're trying to work this out where if school boards and public post-secondary institutions or local government wanted to operate the childcare themselves, that they would still be eligible for the $1 million, but we haven't yet had a decision on that from our department yet, so from the executive. So we're waiting to hear about that, but that may be a possibility as well. And then the next level of funding is, there's another slide on that, Sean, that's nonprofit childcare organizations. So if you're a nonprofit, we'd still love to partner with you. Just a slightly smaller contribution required from you of 10%, and we'll give you a maximum of $500,000, and we would expect you to operate for up to 10 years. If you receive less than $500,000, your commitment drops by a proportion of that. So, and as you can see again, if you're a private sector childcare organization, we will also provide up to 75% of $250,000 towards your capital operation. And it doesn't have to be building a brand new building. This could be a renovation, an addition. We do all kinds of different projects. So I'm thinking of an example where there's somebody that's transforming their house, adding on some space and creating a childcare. And so we're contributing a portion of the, paying for that a portion of the renovation, up to 75% of the renovation costs. And we would hope, though, that we get a 10-year commitment. But if it's a smaller amount, that commitment would drop. So it could be 5 years, depending on how much you receive from us. So I think that's about it. I'm ready for any questions anyone has. I'm happy to answer.
Okay, if anyone has a question, you can go into the question pane and type it in, and I will be reading them to Michelle.
I should also mention, while I got you there, that Devin Carter is my colleague here in the office, and she's also available to answer questions as well. But there's our contact information. You can touch base with us directly.
Okay, okay, here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to expand our infant room from 4 to 12 spaces. If I apply for a grant to expand, what if I can't find enough staff to work and can't get an amendment for my license? Do I have to give the money back?
Oh, yeah, that would be a worst case scenario. But yes, and if you can't operate as per the commitment that you've made in your contract, you would have to. But we have been very flexible in the past. I know of examples where people have run into really big challenges, and our staff here have been very flexible about and understanding and supported people to get through those kinds of challenges.
Okay, I've got another one here. Just one sec. Has anyone been approached by third parties offering to help you write the grants? Is this legitimate?
Are you asking that of me or of other people? I guess it's other people.
That's what it's asking.
I guess we have offered to help people get to the grant writing process. So Devin and I are not part of the adjudication process. Our role is outside of that. So what we do is we help people get ready to apply, and we're out there encouraging people to apply and telling you about the grants. But we're not, in some cases, for example, she did a workshop on Tuesday with a community that was applying, and she was just in the room as they were preparing the application, the initial bit of the application, and just answering questions as they went along to make sure that they were, sort of being able to explain things accurately and adequately. Sorry.
Sean, it's Charlene. And
yes.
I think I have heard, and I'm not sure if this is where this question is from, that there may be third-party, non-government people that perhaps are approaching people because they know there's money on the table. Maybe that question is asking if someone or something approaches you as an organization or a provider and says, you can contract us to help you. So maybe that's where that's coming from. I don't know how widespread that is, though.
Okay.
That's interesting. I guess, it wouldn't be prohibited. We understand that people, some people might not have experience writing grants, and so you could you could definitely get some help doing it.
Okay. And someone asked if the slides will be available. And yes, the recording, I usually make a YouTube video and post it on our website in a few weeks. So you will have access to all the information from tonight. And there's another question here. It's just my question box window is being a little funny. Okay. Okay, one moment here. Okay, I'm a child care center director, and I was approached by a consulting firm offering to help me write grants for funding. I didn't know if this was acceptable. I heard this is very difficult. Oh, no, I think that's a different question. Okay.
We would pay for like if you were successful in your grant, we do cover as eligible project costs include direct costs related to the development and implementation of the project. So that includes consulting services for project management, design, engineering costs, business planning, development, and project related professional fees like architectural fees and that sort of thing. So I guess if somebody was offering to help with, offering to help with the grant writing, it wouldn't include something like that. Like you'd have to pay out of pocket, I guess, to do that.
Okay.
But once your application was approved and you had services to help you roll the project out, that would be covered.
And one final question. I have heard that it is very difficult to find committed teachers to work in childcare due to low pay. Just wondering why assistant teachers are not eligible for government fundings.
For the wage enhancement, yeah. That was a decision by our policy department. I'm assuming the reason that's the case is because we're encouraging people to continue on with their education and become fully fledged ECEs. I think that's the reasoning. I'm not sure. We aren't doing the wage enhancement yet for ECE assistants. So I hope that people will follow up with the end of the call here with the bursary program and encourage you to pursue your full ECE certificate and then you'll be entitled to the $1 an hour this year and $1 an hour next year, and hopefully more to come as the years progress.
Okay, actually, can I throw in one more question?
Sure.
They're starting to come in. Let's see. Can I get the funding to switch my multi-age daycare to infant toddler group daycare in my own home?
I guess as long as you're creating new spaces, that's what we're looking for. So if you would be just taking the same number of spaces, I think you couldn't do that, could you? With a multi-age turning into an infant toddler, you'd reduce the number of spaces. So wouldn't be creating new spaces. We would be losing spaces in that situation, so we wouldn't be able to offer you capital funding for that. If you're looking for some funding to go from license not required, though, we would help you become licensed. But it sounds like you're licensed already if you're multi-age. But
okay. I know there's so many good questions on here tonight. I'm wondering if I could collect them and if you could follow up with them with me in an email, and then I could share them with people.
Yeah.
Would that work for you? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It just there's quite a few that have come in, and we still have to make time for Krista.
Yeah, and I think I probably talked too long. I'm sorry.
Oh, not at all. No, it was very informative.
I tried to keep it, as short as possible, but then you can't really get away from some details. But anyways,
Okay.
yeah, I'd be happy to answer anything you have. If you want to capture all the questions and send them to me in an email, I could reply to you,
That
and
would,
then you could disseminate it.
and then I could absolutely.
Great.
Thank you so much. You've been very
No problem.
informative.
I'm
I know
happy to have the opportunity. It's really excellent. This is my job, getting the message out, making sure that ECEs especially are aware of this, because you're our greatest asset.
Well, thank you, Michelle. We really appreciate that. It's all part of a very big picture, and I think the most detail we can have, the more helpful. So thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I guess I'll sign off here, and have a great evening, everyone. And I might stick around and listen and hear about the bursary programs, because I actually do need to know more about that. So
Great.
I'll thanks very much.
Thank you.
Sean, are you going to introduce Krista?
Yes, I am.
Perfect.
I'm just going to make sure she's unmuted. And now we have Krista Copeland, our ECE BC Bursary Manager, who is going to do an overview of the ECE program. Are you there with us, Krista?
I am. I hope you guys can hear me, because my sound has been cutting in and out. True to form, when I want to use the laptop and the internet, I'm experiencing issues, but my kids can play a bazillion games all at once and chat with a thousand and have no problems at all. So I hope you can all hear me all right.
Yeah, you sound great. There is a little bit of cutting in and out, but I'll just let you know if that happens, if we miss something. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll let you get started.
I don't know how to fix it. I tried to find out cable, but I couldn't. Sure. Thank you. Many of you, or some of you may know that we have 2 new bursary programs we've developed in conjunction with the province to help support ECEs returning to school or entering into school or into the field. I'll just talk briefly about them. The first one is the ECE student bursary, and this bursary is open to all ECE students. You don't have to be working in the field, or you could be working in the field and only taking like a class or 2 at the time, and you're not looking for any additional support. You're more than welcome to apply under this program. And this one is open, like I said, to all students, and you are eligible to receive up to $4,000 in funding per school semester. So that means if you've applied in fall, you can do so again in the winter, and again in the summer, and again in the fall. There's no limit how many times you may apply for the bursary. And the second one, which I thought might be of a little bit more interest to the majority of people on the call, would be the ECE workforce bursary. This one is targeted towards professionals employed within a BC licensed childcare facility. So there are people who have the responsible adult ECE-A or another ECE certification. And this bursary, you may qualify up to $5,000 to assist with the cost of upgrading or completing your ECE credentials. So this, you can flip to the next slide, Sean. So this one, will pay the same amount towards courses as the ECE student bursary, which is about $2 per course, which is a $200 increase over the previous programs we've had. But in addition to those, you can also apply for additional supports for travel, so for mileage and transit, especially if you're commuting outside of your town to take your courses, or just to help you more if you're having to take on some additional traveling to attend school or practicums. We will also give you some consideration towards additional childcare that you take if you're attending evening courses or weekend courses or need a little bit of time to study. There's also consideration for accommodation if your practicum or studies require overnight stays out of town. We'll also give you some specific funds directed towards the cost that you have to buy to support your courses and your studying, as well as professional development and conference fees. This one has been limited to $100 per semester, but again, with the bursaries, you can apply to receive those funds in subsequent semesters as well. So there's a lot of good stuff here for everyone. It's a pretty, I don't know if it's a pretty straightforward or if anybody has any specific questions that I can answer tonight, or if you can think of any in the future. Always feel free to give us a call or reach out to me via email. I'm sorry, it was very short and sweet.
No worries. Let's see if there are any questions.
Oh, and I just realized I just flipped to my screen here. I mentioned probably the most helpful part of this, which is the practicum lost wage subsidies. So in order to qualify for the lost wage subsidies, you must be enrolled in a practicum course, and we will look to cover or help cover the lost wages of up to a 40-hour work week. I know many people do a lot of overtime, but we can only grant you up to a 40-hour period, and you need to include a copy of your pay stub and information as your class so that we can determine how long your practicum is. We've had a few applications that say their practicum is 3 weeks. I take a look at their application form and it's actually 5 weeks. So I can, provide a little bit more support to applicants. So it's important to send us all the information so we can review everything and make sure that we are supporting you in the best way possible.
Okay, someone was asking if they need to be a member to get a bursary.
No.
Sorry,
Member of ECE, you're not. These are public.
Krista, you're
no,
breaking
you don't need
up.
to be a member of ECE. Yeah. Did I just lose you?
We lost you. Are you there, Krista?
I don't know.
We didn't
I
hear,
am
Krista, we didn't
here.
hear the part about membership. If
So
you could
maybe
go over the membership part again.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Krista.
Hello.
Are you okay? So, can you hear me?
I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay. So, if you want to re-answer the question, do they need to be a member?
No, they don't need to be a member. So you guys can hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. No, you don't need to be a member of ECE to apply for either bursary. So you just have to be into school in one of the ECE registry recognized courses. Information on that can be found on our website. And that's pretty much one of the only restrictions. We need you to be an ECE student.
Okay. I think that's it for questions. Let's just wait. There might be one more here.
Okay, and like I said, you can email or give me a call at the office anytime.
One more sec here. Here's one. If I am working as an ECE in, I don't know if that meant to be school age field. Anyways, and would like to complete a post-basic program, which bursary program will I need to apply? If I am working as an ECE in the field, and would like to complete a post-basic program, which bursary program would I need to apply to?
I'm sorry, you cut out there. We could apply under either of the programs. If you're working in a licensed childcare facility, being 5 and under, then you can apply for the workforce bursary, and you are eligible for all the additional support.
Here we go. Here's another one. I would like to obtain my degree, but need to take an online course as I live in a rural area. Can the bursary be used for getting a degree in child and youth care through UVic?
I'm sorry, again, it cut out. If you're looking for support in terms of getting a degree through University of Victoria or Capilano, we can talk about that. I can discuss that further with you in the office if you like, or over the phone, I should say.
Are international students eligible?
Yes, they are.
If you have your ECE from another province, but to complete your ECE in BC, all you need is a practicum and run an LFDC. Are there any financial supports to complete your practicum in your own daycare or to hire someone to work in your daycare while you complete your practicum, so you're not affecting the parents with needing to find alternative care while you complete your requirements?
I'm sorry, again, some of that question I couldn't hear, and I think some of it I may need to understand a little bit more clearly. So if you could email me on that, because the lost wage subsidies is only going to help support your lost wages associated with a practicum, not hiring an additional staff member to replace you.
Is there any bursaries for education over and above the diploma program? Is there any bursaries for education?
There are some. We do look into providing funds for the bachelor programs through the University of Victoria and University of Capilano.
And I have another one. Is there any wage enhancement for employers to hire an ECEA?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of that, Sean.
Is there any wage enhancement for employers to hire an ECEA?
A wage enhancement for an ECEA, that's not. If you're an ECEA and you're looking to go back to school and you need to take a practicum, then yes, under the workforce bursary, there is wage considerations under the bursary program if you're attending a practicum study.
Okay. Please explain Pro D and conference fees. Please explain professional development and conference fees. How to apply, and is it only for a defined relevant course? So they added on to that
There
question.
are the professional development and the professional development courses that are recognized by the ECE registry are the ones that you can apply for some support on, and fees again would have to be related to an ECE type of conference.
Okay. This is another question. Sorry, Krista, the sound was cutting out, so I may have missed it. What was the deadline for the workforce bursary? I am currently studying one course at a time and just began working as a responsible adult. I believe this is the one I may qualify for. Thank you.
Yes, if you're working in a licensed childcare, then of course you can apply for the workforce bursary. Fall semester, which is classes that run between September and December, the last day to apply for a bursary is December 31st.
December 31st, did you say? You were cutting out again.
Yes, I did.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, well, I think that covers everything. All the questions
Hopefully we're
tonight.
making it easier with that. Yeah. Hopefully we're making it easier there with no hard deadline. Well, no hard deadline of September 15th or November 1st or something like that. We're trying to make sure that we capture everyone. And if you are taking a course one at a time, when you complete a course and start another course, then you can also submit your class schedule for that new course and add that to your bursary application as well.
Perfect. So if by chance your question didn't get answered in regards to the bursaries, just give us a call at the office tonight, or not tonight, but sometime in the future, and we can gladly help answer your questions and give you the support that you need. Okay, well, thank you very much, Krista.
And thank you, Sean, for staying late.
Thank you, Sean. Sorry that the sound keeps cutting out.
No worries. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Sean.